while kingdoms fought across distant lands, and armies marched beneath gray skies. One small village remained strangely untouched, far from royal courts and battlefields. Tonight, we slowly wander into that forgotten place. The morning arrived gently across the village. Thin rays of sunlight touched the rooftops one by one. Wooden doors opened slowly as another peaceful day began. No one spoke loudly, and nothing felt urgent. Life moved with the same calm rhythm it had followed for generations. Near the center of the village, the baker prepared his first loaves. The warm scent of bread slowly filled the cool morning air. People would soon gather to collect their daily meals. It was a routine repeated countless times before, and on this day, nothing seemed different. Beyond the cottages, farmers walked quietly toward their fields. The grass remained wet from the night's gentle dew. Their footsteps followed familiar paths through the countryside. Each season brought small changes, but the village itself remained wonderfully predictable. A church bell echoed softly through the valley. Its sound drifted over rooftops and gardens. The villagers paused briefly as they always did. Then they continued with their quiet routines. Nothing disturbed the peaceful order of their world. Children gathered beside the village well. Their laughter rose softly into the morning air. To them, the world felt small and familiar. The fields, the church, and the cottages were everything they knew. Far beyond the hills, history was unfolding without them. Many days away, kingdoms prepared for war. Armies gathered beneath banners and royal symbols. Messengers crossed dangerous roads carrying urgent news. Yet none of those events reached the quiet village. Its people remained unaware of the growing storm. The village market opened beneath the warm afternoon sun. Merchants arranged simple goods on wooden tables. Fresh vegetables and woven cloth attracted small groups of visitors. The conversations remained calm and ordinary. No one spoke of war. A woman lowered a bucket into the village well. The water reflected clouds drifting overhead. Everything around her felt familiar and unchanged. She had repeated this task thousands of times, and she expected to repeat it tomorrow as well. The oldest villager sat beneath a great tree. He watched life unfold with patient eyes. Years had taught him that seasons always changed. Yet even he sensed something unusual in the distance, though he could not explain why. One afternoon, a rider appeared on a distant road. His horse moved slowly across the hills. The villagers noticed him from afar. Travelers rarely passed through this region, and curiosity quietly began to grow. The traveler spoke softly about events beyond the valley. He described armies moving across neighboring lands, castles preparing defenses, and kings demanding loyalty from distant regions. The villagers listened carefully but felt very far away from it all. As evening arrived, daily life continued unchanged. Animals returned to their shelters. Smoke drifted from cottage chimneys. The travelers' stories lingered in a few conversations. But soon the quiet village settled once more. Inside their homes, families shared simple meals. The fire crackled softly in stone hearths. Stories were exchanged in low voices. Outside, darkness slowly covered the valley, and peace remained undisturbed. The village slept beneath a blanket of stars. No alarm disturbed the night. No soldiers marched through the streets. Only the gentle sounds of nature filled the darkness. Everything felt calm and secure. Far away, monks recorded the events of the age. They wrote about battles and kings. Victories and defeats filled their pages. Yet the small village rarely appeared in history. Its silence made it almost invisible. Rain visited the village during the night. Morning arrived fresh and cool. The fields seemed greener than before. People stepped outside and resumed their work. Life continued exactly as expected. Elsewhere, messengers carried urgent news. Kingdoms worried about shifting alliances. Roads became crowded with uncertainty. Yet the road leading to the village remained mostly empty, as though the war had forgotten it. The wheat fields swayed beneath the afternoon wind. Golden waves stretched toward the horizon. Farmers focused on harvests rather than politics. Their concerns remained wonderfully simple, and the land rewarded their patience. The blacksmith shaped iron beside a glowing forge. His hammer rose and fell in steady rhythm. Every strike echoed through the quiet street. It sounded less like work and more like music, a familiar sound within a peaceful world. One evening, faint smoke appeared beyond the hills. Few people noticed it. Even fewer worried about it. The village had always felt protected by distance, and distance still seemed enough. Dusk settled gently across the valley. Lanterns appeared one by one beside doorways. The road remained quiet and empty. Nothing suggested danger was drawing closer. Only peace lingered in the fading light. A shepherd guided his flock toward home. The sheep followed familiar paths through the fields. Their slow movement matched the evening's calm rhythm. Everything felt comfortably ordinary and wonderfully unchanged. Inside a small cottage, a woman stitched cloth by candlelight. The flame danced softly beside her work. Outside, darkness quietly deepened. No urgent news arrived from distant kingdoms. Only silence visited the village. An old bridge crossed the narrow river nearby. Moonlight reflected across the water below. The scene looked almost unchanged from centuries before. Time seemed slower here. Perhaps that was the village's secret. From above, the village appeared small and quiet. Forests and hills surrounded it on every side. Far beyond those natural walls, wars continued. But here, another peaceful day came to an end, and the mystery of its untouched fate slowly deepened. Another morning arrived quietly across the valley. The mist drifted slowly between the cottages and fields. Nothing appeared different from the day before. The same paths waited for familiar footsteps, and the village continued its calm routine without concern. A traveling merchant entered the village square. His cart carried cloth, tools, and distant stories. People gathered around him with quiet curiosity. He spoke of troubled roads and frightened towns. Yet the village seemed untouched by those worries. The merchant described armies crossing rivers. He spoke of villages abandoned in fear. Some roads had become empty and dangerous. But here, birds still sang above the rooftops, and children still played beside the well. The villagers listened carefully to every word. Yet the stories felt very far away. The war seemed to belong to another world, a distant place beyond forests and hills, somehow separated from their peaceful valley. Far beyond the mountains, faint smoke touched the sky. Signs of conflict lingered on the horizon. Yet no soldier appeared on the village road. No banners crossed the fields. Only silence continued its gentle reign. The village elder watched the distant horizon. His eyes followed the roads leading away. He remembered older conflicts from long ago. Yet this strange peace felt different somehow, almost as if the village had been forgotten. Harvest season arrived quietly once again. The fields offered generous crops. Farmers worked patiently beneath the clouds. Their hands remained busy with ordinary tasks, while history unfolded elsewhere. Some villagers gathered inside the church. Candles flickered softly against stone walls. Prayers rose gently into the quiet air. They asked for health and good harvests, not knowing what dangers existed beyond the valley. Elsewhere, messengers rushed through storms. Their horses carried urgent news. Kings demanded reports from distant regions. Every hour seemed important to them. Yet time moved differently inside the village. The blacksmith continued his work beside the forge. Children watched the glowing sparks with wonder. His steady hammer echoed through the street. The sound had become part of village life, a rhythm older than memory itself. A narrow path wound through the nearby forest. Sunlight filtered gently between the trees. No soldiers appeared among the shadows. Only birds and small animals passed quietly. The woods remained calm and welcoming. Many miles away, other villages stood empty. Their people had fled from conflict. Doors remained open to the wind. Fields grew wild without caretakers. But the peaceful valley knew none of this. The weekly market continued as always. People traded grain, vegetables, and cloth. Friendly conversations drifted between stalls. Nothing suggested that kingdoms were fighting. Life remained pleasantly ordinary. Rain arrived quietly before sunset. Droplets tapped softly against wooden roofs. Families gathered indoors beside warm fires. The storm felt peaceful rather than threatening, and the village slept soundly that night. Across Europe, maps were changing rapidly. Borders shifted with every campaign. Kings argued over lands and loyalties. Entire regions faced uncertainty, yet one tiny village remained unchanged. Another traveler arrived with new stories. The war had moved even closer now. Several nearby towns had already felt its effects. Still, the village road remained empty. Its strange protection continued. Children remained unaware of distant troubles. They laughed and played beneath open skies. Their world remained small and familiar. Fields and cottages surrounded their days, and innocence filled the valley. One evening, the elders studied old records. Some pages described earlier conflicts. Others mentioned forgotten roads and ancient boundaries. Perhaps those forgotten details held a clue, but no answer appeared clearly. From the hilltop, the valley seemed timeless. Moonlight covered every rooftop gently. Nothing disturbed the sleeping settlement. The silence felt almost magical, as though the village existed outside history. Dense forests surrounded the valley. They formed a natural barrier against the world. Travel remained difficult through those woods. Perhaps that isolation offered protection, or perhaps something else was responsible. The harvest grew larger with every passing week. Golden fields stretched across the countryside. No army crossed them. No horses trampled the crops. The land remained remarkably fortunate. Families gathered together during warm evenings. Food was shared beside small fires. Stories drifted gently through the air. Laughter mixed with the sounds of nature. Peace still ruled their world. One day, soldiers appeared on a far horizon. Their banners moved beneath gray clouds. Yet they never entered the valley. The hills seemed to guide them elsewhere, and the village remained untouched again. A soft fog covered the valley one morning. The cottages appeared like distant memories. Everything felt strangely dreamlike. The mystery deepened with every passing season. Still, no explanation emerged. Beyond the mountains, kingdoms continued their struggle. Battles were fought and histories were written. But inside the valley, life flowed gently onward. The village seemed suspended between worlds, and its peaceful mystery remained unsolved. For 60 long years, one man followed the same routine. Each morning began before sunrise. Each evening ended beside a flickering candle. While kingdoms rose and fell beyond the monastery walls, he remained quietly devoted to a single task. Many centuries ago, a young monk arrived at a remote monastery. The stone walls seemed ancient even then. Rain clouds drifted slowly above the surrounding hills. The world outside felt distant and uncertain. But inside these walls, life moved at a different pace. The monastery woke before the sun. Footsteps echoed softly across damp stone paths. No voices interrupted the quiet morning air. Only distant bells marked the passing hours. Everything felt calm, measured, and timeless. One day, an older monk handed him a parchment. Beside it rested a feather quill and a small bottle of ink. The task seemed simple at first glance, yet it would quietly shape the next 60 years of his life. A lifetime devoted to copying words. The scriptorium became his daily world. Rows of desks stretched beneath stone arches. Candles flickered softly against ancient walls. The scent of ink filled the still air, and silence remained the room's most faithful companion. Each letter demanded patience and care. His hand moved slowly across the parchment. Mistakes were rare and costly. Hours passed without conversation. Only the gentle scratching of a quill could be heard. Outside, rain tapped softly against narrow windows. Water flowed down the old stone walls. The monk barely noticed the weather. His attention remained fixed upon the page. One line followed another in perfect rhythm. Some pages required special decoration. Large letters bloomed into beautiful patterns. Tiny colors transformed words into art. The work moved slowly, sometimes taking weeks. But there was never any rush. Nearby stood the monastery library. Hundreds of books rested quietly on wooden shelves. Each one had required years of careful effort. Together, they formed a silent treasure, a collection of knowledge preserved by patient hands. Occasionally, he paused to look outside. Rolling hills stretched beyond the monastery walls. Clouds drifted slowly across the sky. The world seemed vast and distant. Yet he always returned to his work. The bell tower measured every day. Morning bells welcomed the dawn. Evening bells signaled approaching darkness. Year after year, the sound remained unchanged, a constant rhythm in a changing world. Meals were simple and quiet. Bread, vegetables, and warm broth filled wooden bowls. Conversation remained rare. Even eating became part of a peaceful routine. Silence guided nearly every hour. Winter arrived and covered the monastery with snow. The world outside grew cold and still. Inside, candles continued to burn, and the monk continued to write. His work never paused for the seasons. The movement of the quill became familiar. Ink flowed across the page with careful precision. Every stroke followed ancient traditions. The words themselves rarely changed. Yet each page remained important. Storms sometimes rolled across the hills. Thunder echoed beyond the stone walls. Rain fell heavily upon the roof. But inside the scriptorium, nothing changed. The work continued quietly. Years passed almost unnoticed. The young monk gradually became older. His routine remained exactly the same. Morning prayers, careful writing, evening silence. Day followed day without interruption. Long corridors connected every part of the monastery. Candlelight danced across worn stone floors. Generations of monks had walked these halls. Their footsteps had faded long ago, but their presence still seemed to linger. Completed manuscripts slowly filled the shelves. One book became 10. 10 books became dozens. Years of work gathered quietly around him. A lifetime measured in pages. Spring returned to the monastery grounds. Small flowers appeared beside stone pathways. The gardens slowly awakened after winter. Life renewed itself gently each year. The monk noticed these changes from afar. New monks occasionally arrived. Some learned the art of copying books. The older monks showed them simple techniques. Patiently, and without many words. The tradition quietly continued. Another day approached its end. Golden light touched the monastery walls. The bell signaled evening prayers, and the monk completed another page, just as he had done thousands of times before. As the years continued to pass, his dedication never weakened. The candle flames flickered softly beside his desk. Each page demanded the same patience as the first, the same careful attention, and the same quiet devotion. Rain returned once again to the monastery. Drops tapped gently against the glass. Outside, the courtyard remained empty. Inside, the scratching of the quill continued, a small sound within a vast silence. Pages accumulated year after year. Stacks of parchment slowly grew taller. Every completed manuscript represented countless hours. Hours spent in concentration and patience. Hours that quietly became decades. One evening, he looked upon the library shelves. Rows of books stretched before him. Many had passed through his own hands. The sight brought neither pride nor sadness, only a deep sense of peaceful purpose. As night settled over the monastery once again, the library remained quiet and still. Thousands of pages rested beneath candlelight, and the monk prepared for another ordinary day tomorrow, a day much like the one before it and the one before that. A castle stood alone upon a silent hill. Its halls remained empty for an entire century. No king walked its corridors. No crown rested upon its throne. And yet, the castle continued waiting. Long ago, in a forgotten corner of medieval Europe, a great castle watched over a peaceful valley. Its towers rose above forests and rivers. Its walls appeared strong and eternal. Yet a strange silence surrounded the place. The gates remained open. No guards stood beside them. No banners moved in the wind. Only grass slowly crept across the stones, as though time itself had settled there. Deep inside the castle stood a throne. No king sat upon it. No royal ceremonies filled the room. Dust gathered quietly upon the armrests, and the years drifted past in silence. The corridors stretched endlessly through the castle. Footsteps no longer echoed there. The candles had long since burned away. Only shadows remained, patiently waiting beside ancient walls. The castle belonged to a forgotten kingdom. Few people remembered its name. Even fewer remembered its rulers. The kingdom slowly faded from history, like ink disappearing from old parchment. The villagers below often looked toward the hill. The castle seemed mysterious even to them. No one lived within its walls, yet it remained standing, silent and watchful above the valley. The courtyard slowly changed over time. Wildflowers appeared between the stones. Birds nested beneath old roofs. Nature gently claimed forgotten spaces, without hurry and without noise. Each morning sunlight crossed the throne room. For a brief moment, the throne seemed alive again. Then the light moved onward, leaving the room unchanged and perfectly silent once more. Rain visited the castle often. Water slipped down weathered stone walls. The towers disappeared into gray mist. Yet the castle endured every storm, as it always had. Once, scholars had worked within these rooms. Books filled shelves from floor to ceiling. Knowledge flowed through the castle halls. Now only a few forgotten pages remained, resting quietly beneath dust. A bell tower overlooked the valley. Long ago it announced royal arrivals. Now it stood silent. No bells disturbed the peaceful air. Only birds visited the tower. At night, the castle appeared almost unreal. Moonlight covered its towers in silver light. Mist drifted through empty courtyards. The kingdom felt like a distant memory, half remembered and half forgotten. Stone staircases climbed toward quiet towers. Each step carried traces of the past. Kings, servants, and soldiers once climbed here. Now only silence traveled those paths. Year after year, the great dining hall remained empty. No feasts filled the room. No music echoed beneath the ceiling. The long tables waited patiently, as though expecting guests who never arrived. A royal chamber overlooked the valley below. The bed remained neatly preserved. A chair sat beside the window. Everything appeared ready for a king. Yet no king returned. Beyond the walls lay endless forests. Seasons changed across the landscape. Spring followed winter. Summer followed spring. The castle watched quietly through them all. A river flowed quietly beneath the hill. Its waters reflected the castle towers. Year after year the reflection remained, while generations came and went. The castle simply continued waiting. Stories about the castle spread through the valley. Some spoke of forgotten kings. Others imagined hidden treasures. No one knew which stories were true, and perhaps that made them more interesting. Winter snow gathered beyond the windows. The throne remained untouched. Cold winds whispered through distant halls. Still the castle waited, patient as always. A small chapel rested within the castle walls. Sunlight crossed ancient stone floors. The room felt peaceful and forgotten, a place untouched by hurry or by the passage of time. Some said the kingdom's crown still existed, hidden somewhere inside the castle, waiting for the return of a ruler. Whether true or not, no one could say. The mystery remained gentle and quiet. One morning thick fog covered the hill. The castle nearly disappeared from view. Only the highest tower remained visible, floating above the mist, like a memory refusing to fade. The watchtower overlooked every road. No royal procession appeared. No messenger arrived with news. Only empty paths stretched toward the horizon, and silence remained their only traveler. Old tapestries still decorated some walls. Their colors had faded with age. Kings and battles could barely be recognized. History slowly disappeared from the fabric. just as it disappeared from memory. 50 years had nearly passed since the castle became empty. The throne still waited inside its silent hall. The kingdom remained forgotten. The valley remained peaceful, and the castle continued watching the world without a king. The years continued their slow journey across the valley. Summer followed winter, and winter followed summer. The castle watched every season pass. Its towers remained unchanged against the horizon. And still, no king returned to claim the waiting throne. Nature had become the castle's most loyal visitor. Wildflowers spread gently across forgotten pathways. Birds nested beneath broken roofs. The courtyard felt peaceful rather than abandoned, as though the castle had accepted its long solitude. Every morning, sunlight entered the throne room. Golden beams crossed the stone floor. For a brief moment, the throne seemed alive. Then the light slowly moved away, leaving silence to rule once again. In the valley below, stories continued to grow. Older villagers shared tales beside evening fires. Some believed a king would one day return. Others thought the royal family had vanished forever. No one truly knew the answer. Old maps still remembered the kingdom. Faded lines marked borders that no longer existed. Names slowly disappeared from memory. Villages changed. Roads changed. But the castle remained exactly where it had always been. Deep inside the castle stood a quiet chapel. A few villagers still visited from time to time. They lit candles and whispered prayers. The small flames flickered gently in the darkness, adding warmth to forgotten stone walls. One autumn morning, thick fog covered the valley. The castle seemed to float above the clouds. Only its highest towers remained visible. The sight felt almost unreal, like a dream drifting through history. A faded portrait still hung within one corridor. The face belonged to a forgotten ruler. Few could remember his name, yet his eyes seemed to watch the hallway, patiently waiting through the centuries. At night, the castle reflected in the lake below. The water remained perfectly still. Towers and battlements shimmered beneath the moon. For a moment, it seemed as though two castles existed, one above the water and one below. The tower staircases remained untouched. Dust gathered softly upon each step. No royal footsteps disturbed the silence. Only time continued its gentle climb upward, one year after another. The great hall remained prepared for a feast that never came. Long tables stretched beneath wooden beams. Empty chairs waited patiently, as though expecting guests from another age, guests who had simply lost their way. The library remained one of the castle's quietest places. Ancient books rested upon forgotten shelves. Many had not been opened for decades. Their pages held stories no one remembered, stories sleeping beneath layers of dust. Winter arrived once again. Snow softened every edge of the castle. The walls appeared gentler beneath their white blanket. Even the abandoned throne room felt warm somehow, wrapped in peaceful silence. Below the hill, villagers carried lanterns home. Their lives continued as always. Children grew older. Families changed. Yet the castle remained the same quiet presence above them. Moonlight visited the throne room every month. The silver glow touched the empty seat. The throne remained perfectly still, waiting through another season, waiting through another year. Occasionally, travelers arrived from distant lands. They often asked the same question: who owned the castle? Why was it empty? The villagers never offered the same answer twice. Old villagers pointed toward the castle while telling stories to children. Legends slowly replaced facts. Children heard stories about hidden kings, lost heirs wandering distant lands, ancient promises waiting to be fulfilled. The mystery grew with every generation. Some believed secret rooms still existed, hidden passages beneath the castle, forgotten treasures, forgotten documents, forgotten answers resting quietly in darkness. Spring returned to the hill. Flowers bloomed beside ancient stones. The castle looked surprisingly alive, as though it welcomed every new season. Even while remaining empty, rumors of a hidden crown continued to spread. Some claimed it remained inside the castle, waiting for its rightful owner, waiting for the kingdom's return, waiting as patiently as the throne itself. Evening painted the castle with warm light. The towers glowed against the horizon. For a brief moment, the old kingdom felt alive again. Then darkness slowly returned, and the dream faded. The roads remained empty. No royal banners appeared. No procession climbed the hill. The watchtower continued its lonely duty, watching over a kingdom that no longer existed. Rain returned once again. Water traced familiar paths across ancient stones. The castle had witnessed thousands of storms, and survived every one of them. Its patience seemed endless. From above, the castle appeared timeless. Forests surrounded it like a protective sea. The valley remained peaceful. The throne remained empty. And the mystery remained beautifully unresolved. Nearly 100 years had passed. The throne still stood exactly where it always had. No king returned. No final answer arrived. Only silence remained. And the castle continued waiting beneath the slow passage of time. Occasionally, travelers arrived from distant lands. They often asked the same question. Who owned the castle? Why was it empty? The villagers never offered the same answer twice. Old villagers pointed toward the castle while telling stories to children. Legends slowly replaced facts. Children heard stories about hidden kings, lost heirs wandering distant lands, ancient promises waiting to be fulfilled. The mystery grew with every generation. Some believed secret rooms still existed, hidden passages beneath the castle, forgotten treasures, forgotten documents, forgotten answers resting quietly in darkness. Spring returned to the hill. Flowers bloomed beside ancient stones. The castle looked surprisingly alive, as though it welcomed every new season. Even while remaining empty, rumors of a hidden crown continued to spread. Some claimed it remained inside the castle, waiting for its rightful owner, waiting for the kingdom's return, waiting as patiently as the throne itself. Evening painted the castle with warm light. The towers glowed against the horizon. For a brief moment, the old kingdom felt alive again. Then darkness slowly returned, and the dream faded. The roads remained empty. No royal banners appeared. No procession climbed the hill. The watchtower continued its lonely duty, watching over a kingdom that no longer existed. Rain returned once again. Water traced familiar paths across ancient stones. The castle had witnessed thousands of storms, and survived every one of them. Its patience seemed endless. From above, the castle appeared timeless. Forests surrounded it like a protective sea. The valley remained peaceful. The throne remained empty. And the mystery remained beautifully unresolved. Nearly 100 years had passed. The throne still stood exactly where it always had. No king returned. No final answer arrived. Only silence remained. And the castle continued waiting beneath the slow passage of time. Beneath layers of desert sand, a forgotten tomb waited in complete silence. Kings came and went. Empires rose and disappeared. Yet the tomb remained hidden beneath the sleeping earth. More than 2,000 years ago, the lands beside the Nile River awakened beneath the morning sun. Temples reflected golden light. Boats drifted peacefully across calm waters. And a story quietly began. The kingdom was prosperous and calm. Markets opened beside temple walls. Priests carried out familiar rituals. The Nile continued its endless journey north. Life followed rhythms older than memory. Scribes recorded daily events upon papyrus. Every harvest and ceremony was carefully noted. Words preserved memories. Memories preserved history. And history slowly accumulated one page at a time. Among the people of this age lived a nobleman. His name would eventually fade from memory, but his tomb would not. Its story would remain hidden, waiting patiently beneath the desert. Stone workers began carving deep within the desert hills. The work moved slowly and carefully. Each block found its proper place. Each chamber served a purpose. Nothing was built in haste. The entrance took shape beneath the hot sun. Narrow passages stretched into the earth. Hidden rooms waited beyond stone walls. Every corridor was carefully designed, every detail planned for eternity. Artists covered the walls with paintings. Bright colors told stories of daily life. Birds, rivers, temples, and stars appeared everywhere. The images carried hopes for the future and memories of the past. Craftsmen prepared objects for the tomb: jewelry, statues, and carefully carved treasures. Each item carried symbolic meaning. Each object reflected patient skill. Together they formed a quiet collection. At last, the tomb neared completion. The chambers stood ready. Painted walls glowed beneath lamplight. Everything waited silently, prepared for a journey beyond life. A funeral procession crossed the desert. The journey moved slowly beneath the sun. Priests offered prayers. Family members followed quietly, and the tomb received its final visitor. The entrance was carefully sealed. Heavy stones covered the doorway. Sand soon gathered around the structure. The world above continued forward, while the tomb entered silence. Days became months. Months became years. The desert wind reshaped the landscape. Gradually, the tomb disappeared beneath the sand, hidden from every eye. Centuries quietly passed. Kings ruled and disappeared. New temples rose beside old ones. Generations came and went, yet the tomb remained undisturbed. At night, moonlight crossed the dunes. The hidden tomb rested far below. No sound reached its chambers. No footsteps disturbed its silence. Only time continued its journey. Caravans passed overhead. Merchants crossed the desert. They never realized what rested beneath them. The tomb remained invisible, protected by sand and distance. Empires changed. New visitors arrived in Egypt. Some admired the ancient monuments. Others searched for forgotten history, but none found the hidden tomb. Sandstorms crossed the desert year after year. Each storm altered the landscape slightly. Dunes shifted and settled. The tomb sank deeper into obscurity, and its mystery quietly grew. Inside the tomb, nothing changed. The treasures remained where they were placed. Paintings continued to decorate the walls. The silence remained complete, as though time itself had stopped. Every sunrise touched the desert above. Every sunset faded into darkness. The hidden chambers noticed none of it. They rested quietly beneath the sand. Year after year, the hieroglyphics still covered the walls. Their messages remained perfectly preserved, waiting for someone to read them again, waiting through centuries of silence, waiting through ages of forgotten history. By now, hundreds of years had passed. The tomb had become part of the landscape itself. No maps marked its location. No stories remembered its existence. The desert kept its secret faithfully. Small animals crossed the dunes. They left brief tracks upon the sand. The wind erased them by morning, just as it erased countless memories, leaving only silence behind. The same stars appeared every night. They watched centuries unfold below. Empires changed beneath their light. Yet the hidden tomb remained unchanged, patiently resting beneath the earth. The desert seemed endless. Its dunes stretched beyond the horizon. Among them rested a forgotten chapter of history, a story waiting to be rediscovered, though no one yet knew where to look. 1,000 years became 2,000. The tomb remained sealed. Its treasures remained untouched. Its story remained unfinished. And beneath the silent desert, the waiting continued. The following days were spent preparing carefully. No one wished to rush. Every detail was recorded. Every stone was examined. The tomb had waited 2,000 years, and patience remained important. The inscriptions revealed fragments of a forgotten story. Names appeared upon the stone. Titles appeared beside them. A noble figure had been buried here, yet history barely remembered him. Scholars carefully copied every symbol. The ancient words deserved attention. Each inscription offered clues. Each clue brought the past slightly closer, like distant voices returning from silence. Finally, the moment arrived. The stone doorway began to move. Slowly and carefully, dust drifted into the air. The silence of centuries was gently disturbed. Beyond the doorway lay a chamber untouched by time. Paintings still covered the walls. Objects remained exactly where they had been placed. Nothing appeared disturbed. The room felt frozen in history. The colors remained astonishingly bright. Blues, reds, and golds decorated the walls. Artists from another age seemed suddenly present again. Their work had survived centuries, protected by darkness and silence. The treasures were not remarkable because of their value. They were remarkable because they remained untouched. Every object rested exactly where ancient hands had left it. A rare moment preserved through time. A conversation between past and present. Nobody rushed forward. The room inspired quiet reflection. 2,000 years had passed, yet the chamber seemed peacefully alive, filled with memories waiting to be understood. The hidden tomb had finally awakened from its long sleep. Its secrets were no longer buried beneath sand. Its story could now be told, not through legends, but through the objects it preserved. After 2,000 years of silence, the forgotten tomb had finally opened its doors. The desert had protected it faithfully. History had nearly forgotten it completely. But now its story would live once again, beneath the timeless stars of Egypt.